In this episode of What's Going On with Shipping, we have an update on the Stena Immaculate and the Solong. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So you may remember last week we had that collision, Allision, ramming of the Stena Immaculate, the U.S. flag tanker that was anchored off the coast of the Humber estuary off the port of Hull, when the motor vessel Solong, a container ship, Madeira flag, German-owned, came out of Scotland heading to Rotterdam and hit the vessel in reduced visibility fog at about 16 knots. A lot has happened since our last video, so we thought it was time for an update. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be alerted about new videos as they come out. So here's an image of Stena Immaculate at the anchorage. She is still anchored in the same place. Salvage crews from Smith, Bacalus are on board doing surveys and preparing to work on clearing the fuel off the vessel, stabilizing the vessel, and getting it into port. I just want to highlight a couple of images here. You've probably seen this image quite a bit, but not a lot of explanation about it. First, the crew abandoned ship via their free fall aft lifeboat. So the crew got into that boat, let it slide, and dumped off the stern and got away. This large structure here next to the stern lifeboat after the house, this is the scrubber. This is used, you'll see this large pipe come out of the exhaust vent. This is used to scrub the exhaust. It gets sulfur out of the exhaust because of requirements put on ships by IMO 2020. This is the International Maritime Organization. You have to use low sulfur fuel, or if you're using high sulfur fuel, you have to send it through the scrubber. So that's what you have here. Obviously, the big issue is the massive hole. You can see the water going in and out of the vessel. This is on the port side. We believe this to be the number 6 tank that was ruptured. We have a statement out from Crowley we'll read in a moment that talks about that this is the only tank that suffered damage. Well, it was the only fuel tank. They also ruptured the double hull, so they have a ballast tank that was ruptured along with the fuel tank. You can see where the fire scorched the hull. You can still see some of the original paint on back here, how the fuel ignited, came down up underneath the stern of the vessel, ignited under the stern, and fought the really burnt the ship up. You can see that here on some of these. These are stainless steel, looks like reducers up here, how they were charred. The ship-to-shore connections right here. This is where the ship will hook in to pump its fuel ashore. You will notice the ship still has power. The reason we know that is, number one, its AIS, its automated identification system, is still transmitting, but also we're still seeing water coming out of the fire monitors. Before the crew abandoned ship, they turned on the automated fire monitors. These sprayed water around the vessel, just kind of spraying around. So that was good work on the part of the crew to get those fire monitors up and running. One of the things I love about the Stena tankers is their paint job. It's absolutely just impeccable. And you can see where the fire really touched that vessel, where it burnt off. So here is motor vessel Solong. So one of the things we know is that one of the crew members of Solong is presumed dead. The individual was named. We'll go to it when we get to that part. We believe the individual was up forward here when the accident occurred. Not sure why he was up forward, but this is the part that took the most damage. You'll see the bow literally crumpled in here from when it went into the side of the Stena Immaculate. We have that dramatic image of the fire on the ship. This video shot from one of the crew members' forward-facing cabins on Solong shows you first the reduced visibility and the fire that erupted after the ship collided. Remember, Stena Immaculate was carrying Jet A1 fuel. You can see the effects of the fire on Solong burnt out. You also have some of these ISO containers up here. We don't know what is carried in these tanks on the vessel. Again, there was initially reports of sodium cyanide on board. That was actually said not to be the case. We believe there was actually alcohol being carried on the vessel, being transported from Scotland down to Rotterdam. But we know that the one missing crew member, we believe, was up here in the bow, and there were still cases of fire on the vessel. The ship had come adrift. It had come loose from Stena Immaculate. There were tugs that were sent after it. The tugs have the ship now, and they are holding it just east of the Humber estuary. Let's take a look at marine traffic and highlight this. This is the position here off the east coast of England. We're going to go ahead and zoom in here a bit to the area and see what we have. So this is Stena Immaculate right here. She is still showing her position at anchor. They have warning buoys set up around her right now. So they've created about a 2-mile exclusion zone in and around the area around her. She is in what was a holding anchorage, and you can see a vessel up here, another one leaving the area. Again, this was an area not designated as an anchorage, but used routinely as an anchorage when this anchorage down here off the estuary was full. And so this had become fairly routine. If you look at Stena Immaculate's track for the past year, this is her first time being off here. So this is not like anyone expected to it. I will note this. I am kind of interested. There is a vessel traffic system in place for the region at the Humber. I am wondering who told Stena Immaculate to anchor there. Were they given a specific latitude and longitude to anchor, or were they just told to find a place and anchor off the coast? That's something that will obviously come up in the English investigation. In regards to Solong, Solong is not showing up. Her AIS is dead. However, Multitrans, which is the salvage company that has been hired to handle her, have her in this position. We can see the Multitrans tugs in and around this area. We saw Multitrans 35, Multisalver 4 in the area. So they're to this area right now about southeast of the Humber. Again, you can't anchor that vessel because you can't access the bow and the anchors are unavailable. They may be able to drop an anchor and hook it to the vessel, but this is still in the process of stabilizing the vessel. So real quick information, just summarizing Stena Immaculate, U.S. flagged, built in 2017, 49,000 tons. Ship is about 183 meters, so almost 600 feet in length. She is one of 10 tankers in the tanker security program. Some people are making the allegation that now the U.S. is missing 1/10 of its tanker capacity, especially the Department of Defense. That's not exactly true. The U.S. hires a fleet of about 10 tankers to do long-term movement of cargo for it around the world. The Stena Immaculate was one of the 10 in the tanker security program. This brought tankers into the U.S. registry. And yes, Stena Immaculate was on a U.S. charter. She was on a 70-day short-term voyage charter to haul jet fuel, Jet A1, to the region off of England. They were going to offload it for a U.S. base in England. So she's hauling jet fuel on a DoD short-term contract. Ships in the tanker security program can't be in the program for more than 180 days. This is the company that's operating the Stena Immaculate, even though the ship is owned by Stena. Because she's operating under the tanker security program, she has to be under a U.S. company. So the company she's under is Crowley Maritime. This is the statement out by Crowley. I'm going to give a real tip of the hat to Crowley. They've been very good in releasing information. I, of course, would love to see more information on these, but they've been very timely. This is their 6th update on it. What they say as of Sunday, March 16th, the third-party salvage team, this is the Smith team, has confirmed damage resulted from the container ship was limited to 1 cargo tank containing Jet A1 and 1 ballast tank. At the time of the Allision, Crowley will always refer to this as an Allision, being that Stena Immaculate was anchored and was not maneuvering. They go on here that she was carrying 220,000 barrels. A barrel is 42 gallons. And they confirm that 17,515 barrels of jet fuel has been lost due to the impact and fire. The note continues. This is from Cal Hayden, the vice president of Crowley Global Ship Management. Before being forced to abandon ship, the crew had the dedication and presence of mind to ensure fire monitors were active in order to provide boundary cooling water to the adjacent cargo tanks. Their heroic action limited damage to the only cargo tanks impacted due to the Allision. We remain fully committed to supporting the UK response to the striking of the Stena Immaculate and any environmental remediation. The UK's HM Coast Guard position remains that there continues to be no cause for concern from the pollution. The salvage process is ongoing and will take time to complete. A salvage and tow plan will be finalized working with the appropriate authorities. Let me say something about the crew on board. Some comments have come out about the crew abandoning ship, not fighting that fire. Let me be 100% clear. That fire was well beyond the capabilities of 22 crew members on board to fight. That fire was a monster of a fire. And that amount of jet fuel burning, with the fear that it could spread to multiple tanks. Again, they did not know how many tanks had been ruptured. They didn't know if they had fire in the interior of the vessel that was going to expand the tanks. There was a fear that they're going to lose the inert gas environment within the tanks. In other words, build up enough oxygen so that you can have an explosive vapor buildup. The smart move for this crew was to get off the vessel. You can handle, with a normal ship's crew, limited fire on board a vessel, but this was major damage. They were hit at 16 knots. There was no telling if the vessel was compromised. Could it capsize? Could it sink? The smart move here was to abandon the vessel. This is motor vessel Solong, 20-year-old vessel sailing under the flag of Portugal. However, I will note that this is under the Madeira registry. This is the open registry maintained by Portugal. She can handle a total of 803 TEUs. Those are 20-foot equivalent units. Most of those containers you saw on the vessel are 40-footers. So one 40-footer FEU is equal to two TEUs. Ship's overall length, about 140 meters, so just a little bit smaller than Stena Immaculate. But again, at 16 knots, that is a lot of force coming at the vessel. The ship is owned and operated by Ernst Group out of Germany. This is an international ship owner and maritime investment manager. If you look at the fleet, you'll see Solong is listed with them and under charter right now, flying the flag of Portugal and registered out of the port of Madeira. This is their mission statement. They are a publicly traded, international operated group based in Hamburg. The company's history dates back to 1893, and they're currently operating a fleet of 29 vessels. Ernst has put out some statements, but nowhere near as many as Crowley. You tend not to see a lot of statements come out because of liability issues. This is all going to go into insurance and into claim court. And with the investigation being done right now by the UK, all of this is going to be looked at meticulously. And you get this story by the BBC. The North Sea collision ship captain appears in court. He's being charged with gross negligence manslaughter over the death of one of his crew members. A Filipino national, 38 years old, Mark Angelo Pernina, was named as the crew member who is missing and presumed dead. The ship's master is Vladimir Motin, 59, of Primorsky in St. Petersburg. He did not enter a plea and was remanded in custody by the Hull magistrates to appear before the Central Criminal Court in London on April 14th. Story goes on. Mr. Motin stood in the glass front dock at the Hull Magistrate Court for a 35-minute hearing, spoke through a translator of the court, heard how all 23, I think I said 22, 23 people on the tanker were rescued, along with 13 of the 14 members of the Solong crew. Story goes on. The Marine Accident Investigation Board, the MAIB, is trying to establish the cause of the crash. Initial inquiries found the Solong was traveling from Grangemouth to Rotterdam and had often sailed the same route. So I talked about this in the past episodes. I'll talk about it again. Solong was probably operating, with its automated navigation system up and running. It was probably under a system called track mode. I've got a batch of people who are angry at me for a variety of reasons because I said autopilot. And autopilot, when you set a vessel to autopilot, it follows a set course. This ship was probably on a track mode. It was going between waypoints. And in track mode, what the system will do is take wind, current, all those factors, and navigate you between set waypoints. This ship had a set of waypoints. This shows you the track line for Solong over the past year. Zoom out here and you see where this ship has basically been operating. A lot of tracks between Scotland down to Rotterdam. It goes by two different routes, it appears, one further off the coast and one right along the coast. And in this case, the vessel was coming in right off the coast here. And it has done this route at least a dozen times, as you see with track lines here. You will notice that at times the tracks are outside the main. This is to navigate around those ships that anchor here periodically. So we know that the ship is aware that there is an anchorage here for vessels. But lots of times it just comes trucking right down here into this area. Story goes on, the MAIB said the salvage process was, quote, necessarily methodical, comprehensive, and ongoing, and would require time to complete fully. Chief Coast Guard Patty O'Callahan, I can't even, on St. Patrick's Day, I'm talking about this story. And the Chief Coast Guardsman is Patty O'Callahan. You don't get more Irish than that. Said that aerial surveillance flights continue to monitor the vessel and confirm, quote, there continues to be no cause for concern from pollution. All 23 crew on board Stena Immaculate were American who are currently in Grimsby and are likely to be repatriated in due course. So that's the update we have on Stena Immaculate, and the Solong will, of course, keep you updated. I should note that at the same time this was going on in the Humber, there was another story going on. I didn't talk about it, but it just got resolved. This vessel, a Dutch coaster, the HMS Wisdom, went aground up in the Humber. The Humber has this huge tidal range here. So the BBC ran the story. The cargo ship stuck in the Humber has been refloated. They had to offload part of the cargo, and the ship has now docked over in Hull, or by Hull, excuse me, over here. I think it's in Marfleet is where they're at. The vessel is now back afloat and out. So just a lot going on in and around this region. This is also, by the way, the same region that had that ammonium nitrate laden vessel that came out of Russia and had to be uploaded. So the east coast of England has just got a lot going on when it comes to shipping. I mean, just a lot of ship happens in England, and we can see it here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit the super thanks button down below, or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly or yearly subscriber. Until the next episode, Sal, signing off.